too. So this has got the your needles. So how I've designed it is so that there's, and you can do it whatever size you like, so that it's got two normal pockets, or I didn't do this, but this is how, so I've got a big pocket and a small pocket for your standard ones, or the big pockets down there. But there, do you put a piece of tape across the whole foot? You do at the bottom, Catherine, and then let me just show you. Let's take that off. So, whoops, can you see my foot there? So I would put it all over the whole of this and these feet here. Cut that little bit out. So if your tape is wider than your foot, just trim it around. And the thing with Scotch tape is you can pull it off afterwards anyway. But yeah, just cut into the little slot where the needle will go up and down, just so that all of the base is covered. So yeah, so that will work too. The other thing with working on clear vinyl, or any vinyls really, don't use a small stitch. You know, I've been, of the last few months, been working with a shorter length stitch for my patchwork things, so something like a 2 or a 1.8, because Stuart Hillard mentioned it, and I thought, let's try it out, because you don't have to believe everything you hear until you try it out for yourself. And so I did that, and wow, it's amazing, fabulous. And the number of you that have also used a shorter stitch length have found it great too. Oh, Joanna, yes. I always tell you, I don't use these as a selling platform, as you know, but since the early days when there were a number of people requested to buy things, do I sell things that I use? Yes, I do. So I have got a big roll of this, and it is the same, you know, my water repellent fabric yesterday. It's the same width as that, which is about 50, 48, 50, 54, something like that. And it is 5.50 the same a metre. So if you wanted just smaller bits, half metres, absolutely fine. Yeah, very pretty binding. Yeah, so that's going to, the binding is going to be the outside as well. So shall we get started? It's quite a simple little project, and you can make it as big or as small as you like. Oh yes, Di. Yeah, and absolutely right. Short stitches, which, you know, I've always done that for a circle. So you're doing a circle when we want to say applique a circle, or just have a circular base for folding and making something else from it. By using a smaller stitch, you get your curves much more smooth. And if you think about it, if you did big stitches, when you turn it through, because of the gap between where the stitches are, you're bound to get a straight line. So with the small stitches, it just gives a curve, a smoother look to it, and really good. On the other hand, when you're using vinyl, use a larger stitch. I'm not meaning big, but I would use, say, a size 3, because as you can imagine, small stitches will perforate it. And when you perforate anything, it just pulls apart easily. So slightly bigger stitch, say a 3, so a little bit up from the default. A default stitch length is normally about 2.5, 2.4, 2.5, depending on what machine. What's that? Yes, Lindsay's. Yes. Well, you see, that is the thing. Whenever I find out new things, first thing I want to do is tell everybody, because why shouldn't you know what I know or how I do things, so that you can do things easily and, you know, better for you. So that was one of the things, I heard it one day, and it was either the same day or the next day, that I thought, yeah, I've got to tell you. And at the end of the day, you don't have to do anything the way I do it. It's just a suggestion, and if you give it a go and like it, fantastic. If you give it a go and think, no, I prefer the way I was doing it, then yeah, do the way you were doing it. It's absolutely fine. So yeah, vinyl, Eliza Jane, is the same as PVC. Yeah, I call it vinyl because I don't know why. I just call it vinyl. But yes, it is. Circles and me don't go together. Oh, Patricia, give it a go. Pop two circles of fabric together, right sides together, stitch all the way around the edge, and then the circle you don't like, so not two nice fabrics, even calico one side or plain white fabric, and then clip carefully into just the white fabric round about the middle, sort of across, stick your scissors in, clip it, and then turn it through to the right side. Now, sorry, before that, either clip into the curve the whole way around the circle, or use pinking shears, or trim the circle back to about 1/8 of an inch. Oh, bless you. I don't mind at all, Lindsay. I love it. I love it. And then turn it through and just roll your finger around the curve inside, you know, through the hole that you've cut, and you see, and then press it. I guarantee you'll have a perfect circle. Perfect. Donna, I have got some. In actual fact, yeah, no, these are the only class of ones I've got left. The other ones I have, which are as good, I personally like, I don't mind the Millwood ones, which are these ones. I prefer them to hemline. And also, if I ever manage to get hold of Schmetz, I love Schmetz too. But at the minute, I've only got, I'm out of 80s because my supplier's been out of stock for weeks. So I've got the assorted packs, and I haven't got that many. The assorted ones, I can't remember the price now either, but there are 4 70s, 4 80s and 2 90s in there, so you get 10 needles. And I've only got a few, but I've got lots of 70s and lots of 90s. So 90s if you're heavier weight sewing, fabrics such as denim, if you like to change to a heavier weight needle, and the 70s are for finer fabrics. So for all, you know, 70s are absolutely fine for your normal sewing where I do my patchwork, but they are specifically for fine fabrics such as, say, the lawn fabrics, the Liberty fabrics. All of those are Tana lawns, and because they're finer, they pierce through the fabric much more easily. So there are those. They are, the normal sets of 5 are $2.25. Yeah, Schmetz and Organ, yeah, for 75 11s, yeah. So, oh, Karen, you've been for afternoon tea, too many cakes. Oh, Karen, that's what I was looking at. I started saying about you earlier, actually, with your Quilter's Grid. I might get some of that in. Quilter's Grid, Karen has used and made the most beautiful bag in lilacs, pale purple, light purples, mauves. And she used Quilter's Grid. Now, for those that perhaps feel they're not very good with their rotary cutter or may prefer to use scissors, Quilter's Grid is a Vilene product that you iron onto the back of your fabric, or the one I'm looking at is, and I'm sure there's only one anyway, and it's all gridded in inch squares so that you can cut along the lines. No, you haven't, Karen. I've only just started. I was just talking about using clear vinyl. So I will get some of that because Karen's results are fantastic and it's given her more confidence. So if you don't like particularly using a rotary cutter, I love it myself. The other thing which will be coming are the shape cut, the strip rulers, you know, the ones like Stripology, but I use the June Taylor ones. So they'll be coming shortly, and rotating cutting mats too, because I think they are a boon and help extremely well. But I will stop talking about things that are coming and we'll get on to this. So this is going to be two-sided. We're going to make the other one that goes with this and then put it all together. So we've got a little holder with little pockets. So we've got this one here. Let's hold it up there. So pocket for your bigger one if you've got that size, and pockets for this one if you've got the smaller size. So what we need is, I've just got 2 pieces of white fabric. Now my fabric is 5 inches across by 6 inches down. That's what you want, Sally. So what size needle should we use as normal or everyday sewing? 80s normally is what I use. 80, 12s, 70 10s, 80 12s, 90 14s. So 70s are for fine fabric, but you can get away with it for normal sewing. 80s are a little bit thicker, and the eye of the needle is slightly larger. We're not talking huge amounts, but 80s is what I use every day, and 90s is for your heavier weight fabrics, and then 100s as well, and even 110s. But 110s, I don't think I've got any of those, and I don't know why I'd want them. But you never know what you might be stitching in some years to come. So, but 100s can be used. I don't myself particularly use much other than 80s, to be honest. Sorry, Pete's hoovering and want feeding. Okay, Yvonne, no problem. Okay, so this that I've done is 5 inches by 6 inches. So I've got 2 pieces, and the reason I haven't done it as one whole strip, because it's going to fold and go together like a book. The reason I haven't done 2 pieces is because I want to put in the middle like a spine, so that it folds over easily. So my spine is not going to be as thick as my outer piece, if you see what I mean, so that it just folds like so. So from there I also have, what do I have? Let's see if I can find my bits here. I have a little bit, no I have, there they are. So I've got 2 bits of vinyl, which I'll put in front of here. I've got 2 bits which are 5 inches across by 2 inches down, and that's because the width of my white fabric is 5 inches, so that's why these are 5. So I've got them 2 inches deep. I've got 2 of those, one for the top, one for the bottom, and I have a piece of, so I cut a strip of my pretty pink fabric, which is 1 inch wide, and then I have folded this one in half, just like we do handles. So I folded it in half and pressed it. I opened it out, and then I popped the raw edges to that centre crease on both sides. Then I folded it over again and pressed it like so. And these are going to sit over the top. So we're doing both sides at the same time. It's going to fit over there, and then we're just going to stitch through. So really, you may not even, when I say about your foot sticking on the vinyl, because we're covering this bit with fabric, and because we're going to stitch the vinyl to fabric, you might not even find a problem anyway. It's only when you're using vinyl against vinyl that's directly on your needle bed here. And as I say, depends what your needle bed is made of, it might not stick anyway. But I gave you the answers if you should have problems or suggestions there. So 1 inch strip, and I just did a width more than 10 inches because this is 5 inches wide. So the strip was about 12, and I'll put some on and cut it off. And then I have got a piece, yes. So then I've got a piece of wadding, which I'm going to wait till I've sewn those pieces together. And I have got a piece of the pink fabric. So this is going to be the outer. I'm going to put wadding to the back of it, and we will go from there. So it is a bit of a wing it, and we will have what we have. But, that's the other thing I know. So I've also cut a piece, no, it's not that piece. It's this piece, which I cut 1.5 inches wide, which is going to be my spine. So I have folded that in half already with wrong sides together, so that I have a folded edge and a raw edge, and I'll show you what we'll do with that in a moment. So I put the, I'm a bit closer to you, aren't I? I've changed where my stand is, or that's clipped onto the table, so that hopefully I can get you a better shot of the sewing machine needle bed. And I'm hoping that you may be able to see this. I'll change it again another day if it's not quite right. But I'm hoping that you'll be able to see that quite well. So the first thing I am going to do is to take my clear piece of vinyl, and as I said, I've ironed this piece already. This is my strip. And I'm just going to slot it into the long edge of my vinyl. And I pressed it together so that I know when I stitch through one side, it's going to catch the other side as well. So I'm just holding that. Now, the other thing, you could, in this case, you could pin through here, through your binding bit, because it's going to be hidden. But more often, if you want to clip anything together, I would use binding clips, because you don't want to pin through your vinyl, because it'll make holes in it, which you can't get rid of. Oh, that is a good view, is it? Oh, good. Right, jolly good. Let's see what we can do. So, as I say, if you need to hold it together, put your binding clips there. But otherwise, just go for it. So, as I say, I'm putting my stitch length up to 3. And I just slotted that. And I'm just stitching along. And as I go, I'm just going to make sure that the edge of the vinyl is tucked right against that inside of the strip here. So just stitch all the way across there, and then I'll cut here. And where have my scissors gone? Oh, there they are. And then I'm just going to clip that off at the edge of the vinyl. That's all right, and clip that. So there we have, whoops, that away. So there's the vinyl and there's the top. Makes it quite neat, doesn't it? So I'll do exactly the same with the other piece. The reason I decided to put binding along the top is because so that you can see the top of it. You could do it without if you didn't want to do this step. But again, just put that in, and then I'm just lifting the vinyl, slotting it in, and folding that over, and then just push the binding over, and you can see, because it's see-through, you can see that you're stitching through both layers. Rather than a normal binding, you might put on one side, right side, and then flip it over to the other side and stitch it from the other side. But this way, it is so much easier. Okay, so just clip those bits of thread off. So then I'm going to take my 5-inch piece, and I'm just going to line up the bottom edge with the bottom edge and the sides with the sides here. And I'm just going to stitch quite close, about 1/8 of an inch away from there, just to hold it down. So again, if you wanted to hold it in place, binding clips there. It is going to be hidden, so if you did want to pin, but I try not to. I think when you get used to doing something, like pinning through the vinyl, there'll be times when you pin and actually you don't want to, and it's left a hole in there. So you can see how closely I have just come. Now that is just to hold it in place, so I won't worry too much. Can you see there at the edges? So it's just all the way around like so. And take that away. Now, what I decided was that 2 inches in from the edge here was ample. So from that stitch line there to there was 2 inches, and that fits lovely. And then we'll leave the long one there. So I just gauged, or I put it onto my, let me see here, so if I do it to there, 6 to 8. So I did put a pin, but I just, I'm just measuring along the bottom there, and then because it's not essential, and then I just tucked it through, so that isn't through the whole of it. I just have put a pin there, and then I'm looking, if it doesn't matter if it's not exactly 2 inches, as straight as possible if you can, but I'm just going to stitch up here. So I'm not going to reverse there, but I am going to wait till I get to this top, and when I hit that, the binding, I'm going to just stitch back just where the binding is. That's it, and then we will cut the thread there. I'll just clip that off. So we'll just try that. So just to make sure, I'll get my And there, that fits in there really nicely. Now we are going to put a binding all around the edge, so at least then that can sit up like that or down like that. And then I left probably about an inch between the next one. So I'm just gauging there. So I'm going to leave about an inch. And again, because it will pop out of the top, so I might do it, yeah, perhaps a little bit less, perhaps 3/4 of an inch, because it only just sits a little bit higher there. And again, pop your pins on if you want to, and just go down this side just to hold it in place, and then straight across this bottom edge. And you want this, actually, that one there could have done with being a little bit, but that's fine. It could be a little bit further up, purely because it needs to. So here, could have done it, I've only just done it about 1/8 of an inch. You could have done it a little bit higher, because that is going to be the bottom edge. So you don't want it to pop out of there, but I'm sure we'll be all right with that. And then again, I'm going to use the same stitch position there, and I'll go up from here. So I'm just going to look at it and just stitch down. So I have started at the top of the binding here, so I'll reverse on that and then straight down, and I will just reverse at the bottom there, just 2 or 3 stitches, just to make that nice and secure, and trim that off and trim that off. Oh, and that one as well. So there are those. Oh, there's a little bit more there. I mean, that is just so simple, isn't it? So, you know, even if you didn't have the clear vinyl, it's only a fact you can see through it. Make them in with fabric and just slot them in. It only means you've got to pick them up to have a look. Hello, Sue. Wish my lines were as straight as yours, Maxine. Oh, they will be. Funnily enough, I have found that Janome will take fabric through straight without me really holding it. Why, I don't know. I just don't know. But it does. It must be something to do with the feed and the mechanism that takes your fabric through, but it works really well. So I'm just going to take out, because while I'm stitching this together, I don't want the... So there we are, our 2 pieces. Can you see those there? Oops, that's a bit... I should bring that around just a little bit more. There. It only just goes so far. That way, okay. So I'm going to take this piece, which is 1.5 inches wide, that I folded in half with wrong sides together. I am going to lay against one edge, and I'm going to stitch, and then I'm going to lay this one, I know it's a folded edge, but it doesn't matter, against this one, the other one. So first of all, so I'm going to line up the raw edges here, and I am going to use 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm lining the top edge and just going to stitch down here with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Again, I'm still going to use my three stitch length, because I'm going over the vinyl as well. So I'll just stitch straight down there. My piece of fabric is too long, but I'm just going to trim that. So having done there, so I'm just trimming that to the length, and then this one here I am going to take, so this side is going to join to this one, so I'm going to put right sides together like so, and I'll go from this side because it's easier to see where I'm stitching. So I'm lining up that there, and I'm just going to line that folded edge over here as well. Just make sure that you want these bottom edges to be as straight as possible as well. So let's just go along here and line that up. So I'm just lining up the fold, just pushing that back here a little, just so that I can get my foot in there. Okay, and just go all the way down there. So what it's given me, which is exactly what I wanted, can you see that is a lot flimsier? So that's my spine, which will allow that to just fold over easily. purely because the way I'm going to put it together with a backing doesn't allow me to put a tab on it, or not that I could think of in my haste. So there's the basics of it. Okay, easy peasy. So what I'm going to look at now is having my wadding, because I want wadding on the outside piece. So I'm just going to cut the wadding to the same size as my insert, as my pockets, and just flip that around. So this is about right, and I will show you how this, so what I've got here, because I had it to hand, a piece, this is H640, and it's fusible wadding, which means you can iron it onto the back of your fabric. So let's get my iron on the go. So I have my little prim iron here, and I'll take that down there. I'm going to put that out of the way for a moment, and just shift that a little bit. So, oh, what's that? Don't know what that's fallen on the floor, but it did. Oh, it's a roll of something. Okay. So, here we have a pressing mat with all. I need to get my ones in very soon. So what let me just explain for those. So this is a wadding, a polyester wadding, and one side, let me show you there, has got little dots. Can you see those dots? That is dry adhesive, and once we iron it, it will bond to my fabric. Now, what I would say, do not put your iron onto, oh, that's better there. Don't put your iron onto the dots, and don't put your iron onto your wadding because it melts it a bit. So I want this, because of the way I'm going to finish off the needle holder, I want that to go in the centre of my, oh, let's take my water out of the way. I'm not really very space, oops, I don't want to knock that off. Just move that out of the way, move that back in a bit, that is better. There is my there. Whoops, that away. That away. There we go. So I want to have an edge around my wadding because we're going to trim that as well. So basically centrally, but I'm going to, having popped it there, I'm going to lay it over to the other side and I'm going to iron it. Now, I haven't got steam in my iron, it is purely heat. And actually this H640 loves steam, and it does say on the edge of H640 to give it steam and heat for 15 seconds. So as I said, I am just going with the heat. So as it's not going to be washed and laundered, I think we can get away with it. So the heat is going to melt it, melt the adhesive and fuse that onto it. Now, one thing it does, it always feels very soft. Whilst it's warm, it feels flimsy, but when it cools down, it is so much better. It gives body. So that has, yeah, I can tell that's fused to there, which is fine. So we will need the iron again shortly, but not yet. So the other thing I'm going to do now, I'm just going to quilt this because I just think it will look a bit or a lot better. So I'm going to quilt it first, and all I'm going to do is, you see that there, and move that up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to sort of cross hatch it. So I will put the table back on because I do find it easier with a table. That's it. And I won't, because I can't see where I need to stitch, I'm going to stitch from this side. So I'll just do, and what I will do is increase my stitch length. I'll do a 5 because it's quilting. So I'm just going to stitch across like this at an angle. And I'm going to clip there. And then I'm going to go, and I'm going to do it quite, I'm guessing here. Now you might have a walking foot that has one of those guides You can use that so that you get very even stitching your cross hatch lines. But as I say, I'm just letting the machine go. It's one of those things that I think it's a needle case. You know, it doesn't have to be. It's not going in for an award for anything. So this is just a decorative touch. I mean, the other thing I'm doing is I'm obviously having lots of ends on the back, which I don't particularly like that, but it's a needle case. That's all I will say about it. So this also, if you don't think your straight lines, I've just swiveled it round because I'm going to carry on down this side. Give it a go. See if you can get your straight lines, you know, use it as a practice, because it doesn't matter if they're not perfect. If you want to give your free motion stitching, so now I'm going to go the opposite way too. You can see that, yeah. So we'll go the opposite way across our cross-hatching, across our diagonals, and then again. But yeah, so with a free motion, for those of you who've not done free motion before, free motion is when you drop the feed dogs and you have full control over where you stitch. So you can do swirly curves, you can do whatever you like basically. As opposed to the way I'm doing it now, it's purely straight lines. So I've just swiveled it round so that I'm just stitching across and I'm just letting the machine do the work. We'll do one more here and we'll do a couple more on the other side. I've got some free just here, so I'll swivel it around. So all the time I'm moving it so that the bulk of my work is to the left, because you've only got so much space in here. So if you have your fabric or the bulk of the fabric on the inner, then it all has to curl up. So we do enough of that with when we are doing quilting. So there we are. That looks quite, you can see that there. So it's got a little bit of quilting on there. I could have used different colour thread for it to stand out, but I think that works. So what I'm going to do now is just move it out of the way, because this is how we're going to finish it off. So that, because of my stitching, I've probably shrunk the sizing of that a little bit. So let's just have a look here. So, oh, it's not too bad. It's about the same size. So what we're going to do is we're going to bind with the edge here. So one thing I haven't done is brought my rotary cutter. So I have my rotary there. I have my ruler. And this is where my 1-inch ruler would have been ideal. Oh, I have got my 1-inch ruler behind me. Bear with. So, any ruler will do, but here is mine. So I've got a 1-inch ruler, 1 inch wide, and I want to go all the way around this edge here so that I have 1 inch of fabric all the way around. So all I need to do is place my ruler against the edge of the wadding. And see if I can cut sitting down. There we are. So I didn't cut very well there. That's it. Which is why I do like to stand up when I'm using a rotary cutter. See how I close the blade each time as well? Because the way your hands go about like this, if it was open, you can cut yourself very, very easily. Okay. So again, I can just place my ruler against the edge of the wadding. And I will stand up actually because it's easier. Okay, so there's another bit off. Swivel it around. You'll see as well I'm always cutting away from me. And again, cut that away. And then swivel the last edge. So the width of fabric around the edge is 1 inch. Okay. So now we have a piece. Right side is there, wadding in the middle, 1 inch of fabric the whole way round. So let's get my mat again, which is here, and along with my iron, and I am going to press the raw edge so we can see that. Let's go, oops, it is. Okay, so I've got this here. All I'm going to do is press the raw edge up to the edge of the wadding, and I'm just going to press it all the way along. You see what I'm doing there? So just press that up. So it just needs, that's it. So I pressed that the whole way along, half an inch, which is half an inch because that's an inch. I'm folding it in half and just pressing that edge the whole way along there. Swivel it around. It doesn't matter if that's still folded. Just turn that up and press. So you've got no measuring to have to do, purely because you're folding up the edge of your border up to the wadding line. So I've done that one too, and then similarly here, just move that up. Use your fingers just to hold that in place. So without steam, it doesn't matter, and also I don't burn my fingers. When I was doing it earlier, I used the big iron with the steam, and it just puffs out and gets your fingers. So as you see here, I've just folded these all the way around. Give a nice edge to that. So I'm now going to bring in my, now just make sure, you see, not that it would matter, that's going to be the right way up. Just make sure your pockets are opened here. So I'm going to lay that on the top of the wadding. Now what I will do is pop a pin down this middle bit here. There's no vinyl in there. Actually, let's move it further down because I don't want to stitch through, but just holding that in place. And whoops, go back up a bit further. So it's gone through the wadding, but that's just holding that bit in place around there. And now all I'm going to do is fold that piece up, the edge up, and stitch around here. I'll show you how we'll do that. So machine back in with table. Let's just see the legs gone under. Okay, we're okay there. So I will start halfway along an edge. Never ever start at a corner. So I'll start here, and all I'm going to do is fold that over and stitch. So there's no hand sewing involved, so just nice and easy to stitch all the way around. Now I wonder if, because I want to be able to show you, if I bring the machine closer, oh, that is much better. Right, so as long as my hands don't get in the way, they might do. Right, let's just have a look. So tucking that under, because I want to show you this fold bit at the bottom here. Yeah, that hand does get in the way. Or perhaps I'll have to do it round like this. That's all right. So we leave that fold. We're going to start stitching here, and I'm pushing that fold all the way over the edge. I've stayed with my, oh no, I don't want 5, do I? I've stayed with my 3mm setting. So when I get to this corner, I want to make a nice mitre. So just get me a... So what I do before I get there is open out this bottom edge and then flatten the side with stitching all the way down. Then we'll fold it back up to how it was. No, we don't. Going mad here. So we flatten it so that whole edge is flattened. Then we do a triangle. So we fold that piece in. Can you see there? Whoops, I don't want to sew. I've folded that in as a triangle so that I can, and it butts up with the edge. Then I am folding this bit here just to how it was. So I've got that seam still all, that side folded up. Then I'm going to fold this up, and my hands will be in the way, but I'm just folding that up so that I form a nice mitre. It's really hard to see, I think, but I've got a nice mitre there. So, and I keep my, I love to use the seam ripper here because I'm stitching down and put the seam ripper flat until I stitch, that's it, oh, stay still. So it's stitched one into that mitre, so it's holding it now, that side. So I can swivel, and then I'm just going to fold this edge up and stitch along here. Okay, so easy peasy. Just move along and move along just a little bit more. So I'm turning that edge over, the folded edge over there. So it's taken a little bit of the depth, but it will still work. Okay, and then we're getting towards this end here. So again, I'm going to flatten that down and fold that over as we're stitching there. And then I'm going to fold this to the left so it makes a triangle. You see that folded there. And then I'm going to fold this edge back up to how it was previously. So I've got this cut off bit here, and then I'm going to fold that up onto the bit where we're stitching now. And if I just bring that over there, it just gives me a nice mitre. Right, so let's just pull that together. And I say I like to use the seam ripper because it just holds that fabric in place. And one more. That's it. And that has just got straight into this bit of fabric so that I can turn that around and work on the next side. So again, just pull that folded edge up. Oops, I missed a bit there, I think. And then bring this side down because we're coming up towards it, and fold that edge over so that that edge now is flat. Then triangle, so fold it to the left so that that has an angle there, and then fold this edge up to how the original fold was, and that goes at an angle too, and then fold it both up. Now let's just, that has not, well, I've pulled that in too much there. Okay, so fold that up, and then that needs to go over, just to give us a nice mitre. Except what I've done is, that's it, I've pulled that over too far there. Right, let's stitch a little bit further. That's it. So that needs to come over like so, and fold as a triangle, fold up the bottom edge, fold back in, because we want to create that nice mitre at that side. I've got some better seam rippers than this. It is quite blunt. Just lift that up. So pop that down. Sorry, my hand needs to go behind there. And then stitch just till one stitch into that corner. Swivel it round, and again fold that edge over and stitch along there. So we've got the long edge here, stitching along. We're not going through any vinyl at that point, and so then just a little bit further, and when we get to this edge, we're going to flatten that one down again, fold the triangle to the left, fold the side back up and back to form that mitre just here, which it is doing quite nicely, but it's just moved it a little bit there. One, and that's into, oh, so I've got my foot still on there. So you don't want to do that. Just went too far because I've still got my foot on the pedal. And then carry on round. And when I get back to where I started, I'll just stitch over the first 2 or 3 stitches. And done. So let's pull those pins out. And let's flip that over and just get rid of a few of these bits of thread because they're not good. So this is where, as I say, I just, I was doing that quilting, stitching across, and I knew I'd have some thread ends, but we'll just trim those away, just to neaten it up a little bit. And there's some there, and a long bit. But what I could have done, a stay stitch. So on some of your machines, you will have a little circle with a dot in the middle, and a little bit like a dartboard. And with that, when you press it, it stitches on the spot. So rather than reversing, it just goes up and down probably 3 or 4 times just to secure your stitching there. But what I'm doing, I just trimmed the threads. But as I said, it's just a needle holder. So I'm nearly all the way around now, just clipping those little bits off. Or that last edge here. Just clip those. And I'm sure it won't come undone because it won't get that much use to require it. So just clip those, and that last one. So have I got any threads on this end? Just where? No. So basically there is, tell you what I probably will do. Yeah, the other thing, I'm going to stitch down that middle bit there, just to hold that. So when I say down the middle, I just want it to create, I'm just going to go back up there again 3 times actually. So I stitched 1 across, and then I'm going to go straight back up the other side so that I have 3 rows of stitching. 1 more, whoops. Oh, why it keeps, well, it's because I've got my foot too close to the pedal. So I've done 3 rows of stitching down there just to create a spine. And I'll clip again there. So it just makes that fold a little bit more. Okay, so trim that bit off, a bit of thread, and that side as well. So all we need to do is pop in our needles. So you see, even though it took a little bit off there, it hasn't actually taken too much. Where's my other one? Oh, here we are. So we can have another one up here. And there we have our needle holder. If you want to put there's a bit more thread there. If you want to put a tie on here, or actually there's enough space, you could put a popper if you wanted to. You could put one there and there, or add a little bit of ribbon, stitch a bit of ribbon on the outside so you could tie it together. But that is as easy as it comes, I think. Okay, whoops, let's move this a bit. Back to me. That's in France, are you? Oh, Mary must be there. Mary must be there. So, let's have a look. Yeah, so, I mean, within this, then it just folds up like that. What I was saying here, if you wanted to stitch on the outside a piece of ribbon, so you've got a ribbon on this side as well, so that you can tie it. I would have liked to have a little tab to go round from one side to the other, but purely because I use the technique of taking the fabric from this side over to the front, which makes it nice and easy to make. But you know, that is how it is. But I think you could see, I've got a big thing of Schmetz needles here, and I have a feeling, if wanted, yeah, you see, they could go in there as well. They fit in. That's really quite big. If you want to put, I'm just getting my seam ripper here. I think there's all sorts could fit in if you wanted it to. So you could put your seam ripper in there if you wanted. There's all sorts of things you could add into there. The bobbins would even, I tell you, the other thing you could do is put your machine feet. So you could make rows of pockets like this and slot your machine foot into one. Let's take that one out a minute, and you see, even this is thread everywhere. So right, a machine foot this way. Where are we? A machine foot No, let's put it in this side, that's easier. A machine foot in there, a machine foot in here. Way. So machine foot in there. How good is that? In fact, I might do one to that, because I always grovel around in my little accessory tray. Oh, hi Mary, and all from a far too hot France. Oh, bonjour. Oh, did you like that, Anne? Good. Really, really cool. Thank you, Maxine. I mean, it's a little project, but there's a lot of different techniques in there, which, you know, you can learn lots of little bits. You might not use them all at the same time, but this technique of having the fabric on the back and bringing it over to the front, you can make placemats like that. So you make your placemat. This would be the equivalent of what the top of my placemat, this bit. So this is a bit more involved because it's a holder, but that can be just a plain piece of fabric. And then, like I did with the wadding on the back and on the backing piece, that's an inch too big the whole way around, bring it over to the front, and there's your placemat. It could be, what else was I thinking? Your quilts. So you do your quilt a lot bigger than this piece here, and you put your backing fabric on and cut an inch of fabric all around the edge bigger, and then you bring that over, you do the folding and then stitch. So you're machine stitching the whole of your quilt that way rather than hand sewing. So there's other ways of putting a binding on, but how easy is this, or how effective? And it is really quite easy. Good. Yeah, nice little idea. Thank you, Carol. Okay, bye-bye, Sharon. Since 7, oh, that's where you are. Okay, lovely, Elaine. I hope you liked it. Karen started doing 3 rows of stitching on bag handles. Looks good. Yeah, makes them a bit more sturdy. It does. I can't think which one of or a couple of my last ones I put 3 rows of stitching. It really does. And the 3 rows of stitching just up the middle just make the spine fold that bit more easily. And from that side, yeah, it just adds to it, doesn't it? So, oh, Sue likes the technique of binding. Yep. But I think it's because you ladies say all these comments, but I think the machine feet in here, I shall be doing that, because it'd be so much easier to pick up my little book and pick out my machine foot rather than what I'm doing now, like this. Where is it? It's got thread all around them, you know? Oh, it'd be a good idea for Chandler with a pin cushion or something similar as a stocking filler. Absolutely right. Thank you, Linda. Oh, thank you, Maggie. Nice project you like. Okay. Oh, the other thing I was going to show you, which I didn't, my creased up. Oh, I don't know whether I'll be able to. Let me just bring this down onto. So I'm creasing up my bit of vinyl. Let me just take you down onto this here. So you look how good. Oh no, you can't see that there. See that down here, perhaps? Nope. Let's take it up there. Whoops. No, that away. Right. One day I shall be great with the camera, or I shall have something a lot better than this. So all I'm going to do now, what you can do is get yourself 2 bits of paper, which I'll get from here, and you put it between, well, I won't for a minute. So you could put another bit of paper on the top and iron the paper. Or I think it'll work this way, because all you need, now don't put your iron on to the vinyl, but the heat of the iron will flatten it out. So I am just, and probably a steam iron where it's whooshing. Do you remember in Christmas crackers you used to get those little red fish that you put them on your, there you are, it's working already. You put them on your warm hand and they used to curl up. Well, this is the same, except what this does, it just flattens down. Can you see there? Not a wrinkle in sight. And I haven't touched the iron, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do that. But I've just used the heat. I turned the iron on and showed the heat to it. Can you see there? Beautifully smooth. Not a ripple. Not a ripple in it. Whoops, that's the wrong way. There we go. So that is how. So if you've got anything already that's made from vinyl and there's creases in it, just show it to your iron and the heat from the iron, and it'll get the creases out. So there we are. Machine feet, yeah. Well, you all gave me that idea. It's just I'm talking off the top of my head and then it comes out. It would be brilliant, and I'm going to do it. Yes. Penny loves it too. Another Hochanda mate, Trish. Someone is making folders out of... Oh, have they? Someone is making... that is so good, my dear. Someone is making folders out of that vinyl on Hochanda. Oh, right. Yeah. They haven't done one of these, though, have they? That's... because I don't like to copy... You know, there can be absolute coincidences. Because I haven't seen anybody doing that on Hochanda. But, yeah. I do all my own things that I think of. Could you make pockets like that on an A4 sheet of fabric to put a ring binder? To put in a ring binder? Yes, you absolutely could. Now I tell you what might be good as well, to put eyelets to go in the in a ring binder. If at the side, so pretending that that's a bigger sheet of, you could make your pocket. You could even add the vinyl to a sheet of something thicker, but I would put, for the ring binder, eyelets in here so that it was far more rigid and would work in and out of a ring binder and not break the plastic, the vinyl. Yes, you could. Yes. Ça va bien, merci. Oh, okay. Oh, Sally finishes your Christmas mats that way. Yeah, it's good and practical. Another project, Joanna. Yes, and Vera likes. Would be great for makeup and brushes. Yeah, absolutely would. Chris, you like it? Like the idea of owning it big enough for feet? Yes. Oh, and sashes. Yeah, sashes are good. Yes, that sashes are, for those that don't know, they're what you can make your binding or your bias binding strips with, and your binding strips. But you feed, to my mind, it looks like, you know, the plastic paper clips that are slightly flatter. A normal paper clip is metal and just like corded metal wire, but you can get plastic paper clips and they're flatter, and sashes remind me of that. So they are that sort of shape. They've got two slots, two rectangular long slots, or different lengths depending on width of fabric you're putting through them, and you feed your fabric through under one and up through the other, and then you iron it as it comes out. So they're like bias binding tools. Yeah. So Linda keeps her feet in the plastic with dividers in. Yes, I've seen that. That's a good idea too. Yep, you can use a hairdryer. Indeed. Might blow away a bit though. Bit like using shrink plastic if you use any of that. Oh, they haven't, Lindsay. Okay. I wonder if I've burst the bubble too early and somebody will see. No. Could you put more pages in it? You could. You could put more pages. And where I've done that stitching down the centre, yeah, do it absolutely for that, because then it would join the pages for it. Okay. Oh, Joy's got Handmade by Hayley hobby bag. Oh, that's right. Now that has got, I have seen that's got zips in it and all sorts, hasn't it? Sandy's got some PVC from the mill shop. I'm very confused what bias and grain and all those words are. Right, let's do a quick, because I know time is getting on. Let me get a piece of fabric. Right, let us have a piece of Tilda. I have a fat quarter here. So the grain of fabric we have, where are my, there is my selvage. Can you see? I should have perhaps, no, let me get another piece. that has got, there's quite often writing on your selvage. And let's see what I can find here. Let's have a bit of, no, we won't have that bit. Let's have a bit here. Let's hope this one has got, so this is a bit of Rue 1800. Oh, isn't that typical? Okay, so there's no, usually or quite often you have writing on the edge. So that's your selvage, furry at the edges, and can you see those little holes? That's where the warp and weft threads, I've seen that demonstrated before. Okay, so you have a selvage. Let's just go this away. That's better. So you've got your width of fabric. Dum -de -dum. There is your selvage, and your warp threads, that is your straight of grain, straight down where the selvage is. So that's straight, that's your straight grain. If you go, and that is warp, the warp threads. And the way of remembering this, the weft goes from right to left. So if you always think of that one first, you'll always remember that the other's warp. So warp for down and straight grain. Cross grain goes across. And these are your weft threads, right to left, weft. Weft threads go across the fabric. So that is cross grain. And your bias grain is diagonally across at a 45-degree angle. And that is where you get your stretch. So you have a minimal bit of stretch on the cross grain because the weaving threads have got a bit of give. You have less that way. You have different noises as well. So on your straight grain, there's usually no stretch, unless you've gone for stretch fabric. This is cotton, 100% cotton. So no stretch here, minimal on the cross, but on the diagonal, so if I do the top and the bottom, can you see that stretch? You can see by how it curls in, it's hard to, so that is where your bias is. So it goes diagonally, can you see that triangle there? So I'm stretching diagonally across. So that briefly is what your grains are. So you've got straight grain going down the selvage, straight, cross grain going across the fabric, so basically across the width of fabric, and then your bias grain is diagonally across at a 45-degree angle. So there we are. Penny, you've got to go. Yes, it's gone 6 and it really is dinner time. So see you tomorrow, Denise. See you tomorrow, Penny. What I will say is thank you so much. I've had a lovely time with you all today and I hope you've enjoyed too. Good. It takes time, Maxine, because it's hearing the same things once, twice, 3 times, and then it will just be common knowledge to you. But to start off with, yeah, there's lots of technical terms. But yeah, we'll learn a little bit each day and everything will go swimmingly. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Sheila. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.